Good morning, Muncie. This is Dan Ridenour, your mayor. Today is May 8th. I have a special guest today, Ball State University President, Jeffrey Mearns. Thank you for joining us, Jeffrey. How are you?
It's good to be with you, Mayor. Good morning.
So a couple of things before we get into kind of a question and answer with President Mearns. I do want to touch base just on a couple other things. I'm going to give my daily numbers. Now, remember, I take these from the state site. So they run a little behind what you might get from the Delaware County EMA, but they're accurate and day by day by day. So for Delaware County, we've had 1,920 people who have been tested. 213 have tested positive. So just over 1,700 had symptoms but did not test positive. And we've had 15 deaths. The important thing for us as citizens and entities to do is to continue to follow the social distancing guidelines, which include keeping your 6 feet distance at all possible. We recommend masks. We have masks for people who come in with appointment guests here at City Hall, and also washing your hands regularly. And remember, the masks are more to protect others. In addition to protecting you, they protect others. So it's a way to help stop the spread. So when you're in those social situations, make sure that you to follow those things. And we're going to get through this all together. I wanted to, President, I just wanted to quickly ask a couple things. First of all, obviously you've been in the same stay-at-home social distancing rules that most of our citizens have been encumbered with. What has been how has that been for you? What have been some of your the challenges, and what have been some of the things that you've learned through that process?
Well, I think the challenge for us, as it was for so many people, was the pace at which we needed to change from normal operations, that is, students in classrooms, faculty in the front of the classroom teaching and guiding and inspiring our students, residence halls and dining halls. On any given day, we could have 10 or 15,000 people on our campus, and had to move very quickly to transition to remote learning for our students. We also had to, relatively quickly and not particularly planned move out for our students. As you know, we planned for months for the move in, and we had to plan a move out in a matter of days. And I'm just grateful to all of our faculty and staff, how they handled this challenge. They moved promptly. They took responsibility to ensure the safety of our students, to ensure the safety of each other. And so those were the challenges. We had some preparation for an event like this, a crisis or a critical event, but certainly nothing of this magnitude, this scope, and the speed with which we had to make the change. And so now, after about 2 or 3 or maybe 4 weeks of reacting, we've now been, for the last couple of weeks, in a planning phase for what's next for the university.
Great. I'm going to do one more, I'll call it a friendly question that has to do with you and your wife, maybe personally, but if you could take an opportunity to share with us maybe what one or two of your favorite takeout restaurants have been through this whole event.
So, at the risk of alienating some of the pizza loyalists in East Central Indiana, we're a Greek's Pizza fan as opposed to Pizza King, but we also occasionally order Chinese or Thai. But I must give a shout out to my wife. Jennifer is a wonderful cook. So we only do takeout from time to time because she's top notch, and she's actually even on a couple of occasions recruited me into the kitchen to help. I'm better with breakfast food than dinner. But so we've all been pitching in our household.
Well, and it's one of the many things that we have learned. And I've been asking a lot of people who their favorites are. It gives an opportunity for them to give a little bit of feel for what they like, but also it gives the businesses some
Sure.
free publicity, we'll call it.
Sure.
So as you look forward, I know you said you're now in the planning phases. And I agree with you. The speed at which things were changing in those early weeks, the adjustments we had to make, it was incredible. But now we're in that planning phase too. What will we see from Ball State when this fall comes along?
Right. So the first part of our planning phase was to transition summer classes to online, and we were able to do that successfully. There were only a very small number of classes that we weren't able to transition, and I'm pleased to report that our summer enrollment is tracking consistent with our budget and with last year's summer enrollment numbers. So again, grateful to our faculty about how quickly they responded. Now we have two planning groups that are working in parallel and in concert with one another. There's an academic planning group that's led by the provost and includes faculty and academic administrators. They're planning for what the academic enterprise will look like come August. And then there's a separate group that we're calling Trust that's working on the transition to all of the other campus activities and campus operations, everything from our event venues to dining halls and residence halls and athletic events and equipment and those kinds of aspects to our operation. As I say, they're working parallel to one another, but in coordination with one another. And as I shared with the campus on Wednesday, we are preparing to resume on-campus activities and on-campus instruction, teaching, and learning in August. Of course, we'll do it in the context of the continued conditions and precautions that we will all need to take at that time. But I think if we plan and prepare well, we will be able to enroll a full complement of students. Now, we will have to be flexible and adaptable. None of us know exactly what our county and our country will look like on August 15th. So we're planning different scenarios and also for different contingencies depending upon what might arise during the fall semester as well. So we've got a lot of smart people that are working very hard in developing those different scenarios and different contingency plans. But again, we plan to have on-campus learning and teaching in the fall semester.
That's great. So how has this impacted your organization at Ball State financially? I know that I have read and I understand that you gave refunds, but I was just curious how this has impacted you and where you see the longer picture. Will it stop any projects? I mean, I can see the crane from my window, so obviously that's not stopping, but what has this meant financially for Ball State?
Yeah, so I'll separate it out into a couple of different buckets or aspects of our financial situation. First of all, the construction projects that we have underway, I'm pleased to report they're continuing on pace and on budget. Those projects have been funded by the state as well as our own internal resources that we had already dedicated to those projects, including the parking garage and the residence halls. And those projects were already underway, and so they are continuing. Then with respect to the refunds and credits from housing and dining, that is a separate operating budget within our auxiliaries. That was a substantial impact on that auxiliary, and we anticipate that we'll have to continue to adjust the budget for housing and dining depending upon how many students enroll and how many want to live on our campus or eat in our dining halls. And then with respect to our largest budget, which is our operating budget, we are on pace to have a modest positive operating margin at the end of this fiscal year, June 30th. I've been quite fortunate. My predecessors, previous presidents and board members and administrators have done a very good job of ensuring that we manage our resources prudently. So we've got a reasonable cushion to manage. What we are anticipating, though, is what would happen next fiscal year, beginning on July 1st. As you probably know, our two largest revenue streams are tuition revenue and state appropriation. With respect to tuition revenue, of course, it's directly dependent upon enrollment, and that's why it's so important for us to ensure that our students are able to enroll and that we're able to continue to deliver an outstanding education so our students return and that new students enroll. There are a lot of dire predictions out there about college enrollment. We're not yet seeing that materialize, but of course, these are uncertain and unpredictable times. So we're planning various scenarios for enrollment. And then, of course, as you well know, the state budget is under great stress as a result of the economic impact of the pandemic. And so we're planning various scenarios in the event that the state needs to adjust the state appropriation that has previously been budgeted for our university. So that's why we're doing various contingency plannings. We're fortunate that the state of Indiana values higher education, public higher education, both with capital appropriations for our buildings as well as operating support. But as I say, we know that there's extraordinary stress on the state budget as a result of the economic impact of the pandemic.
One of the things as we go back more toward the beginning of when this pandemic started for all of us, one of the things that I felt like we struggled with early on in the city was we didn't have a great structure on how to communicate, but I felt like Ball State seemed to have a better system already in place. Now we've adjusted that since, and we've been having this type of broadcast to communicate with the public every day on some important issues. But tell us about how communications have adjusted through this whole process.
Well, so thank you for your kind words. We do have a pre-existing crisis management team. So as soon as this crisis emerged, they were on a daily conference call every day at noon. They were also, several members of that group were on the daily calls that the county was conducting. So we were gathering information and sharing information with the county. And then very quickly thereafter, we set up a little later in the afternoon a conference call among me and all of the members, all of our vice presidents, the members of my cabinet. So we had a various internal communication mechanisms set up very quickly. Then we also quickly realized that we needed to communicate with our campus community and with our broader university community. That's when we began sending emails on a regular basis. And I also need to give a shout out to our outstanding staff in marketing and communications, because we also realized while people wanted regular communication by emails, they also wanted access to more complete information about various subjects. So we set up a dedicated page on our website where people could go with current information. And then it also had extensive FAQs, frequently asked questions and answers. And so I think the combination of the emails and videos and the messages that were going out to campus, coupled with the website, enabled us to communicate well. And then, as you probably know, I've appear every Friday morning with Stan Solers on IPR. I've also started recording some interviews with Steve Lindell. And then, of course, grateful for the opportunity to be with you. We know in these uncertain times that what people want is current information. They don't want it necessarily sugar-coated. They want it straight. They want to understand that people are mature and understand the impact of this pandemic, but they're looking for information to help guide their work and to guide their lives.
Well, I know that we had, as mayor, I was presented with an emergency management book, and it's about this thick, and it covered what would happen, and it was a good guide, but we have learned and added to that book. This was not something that any of us had planned for, obviously. There were some guidelines, but we've refined those and improved them. And so that's one of the linings, the positive linings in this situation. I think we'll be better positioned, and I think Ball State will be as well in future years when these types of situations come about.
Yeah, and I think what we've also learned on a personal and professional level is, given the extraordinary uncertainty of this, that we need to give each other a little bit of more patience and understanding. We're all imperfect every day, but we're grateful that people are patient with us as we continue to adjust to it. And I've seen that again all across our campus and all across the community.
Well, and I've been very proud with the community. They've stepped up in so many ways. I know you had a group that had stepped up. Your theater department actually was part of the group that created, sewed masks that we use with our first responders. And I think you had tell us about, you had another group. I don't have my notes in front of me, but you guys raised a lot of money. A group of, was it Ball State students or faculty? But
yeah, so there were a couple of things. One is last year we had our first One Ball State Day, which was an annual day of giving to support the university and in particular its students. And it was scheduled for the first or second week of April. So you could imagine we spent a little bit of time wondering about whether, given this challenge, whether it was the appropriate thing to do. And we ultimately decided to do it because we heard from so many of our people on campus and our alumni and benefactors that they were looking for an opportunity to support our students. So we did our second annual One Ball State Day, and it was a great success, raised about $530,000 from more than 4,000 individual donors, including hundreds of students and several hundred faculty and staff. And so grateful to all of the people who stepped up with their generosity, dedicated and directed to our students who need it more than ever during these difficult times. We also had a group of faculty, I think it was about 18 or 19 of our faculty who happened to have been born and raised in China, who are now here on our full-time faculty. And they had a fundraiser and donated some of their own resources. And they purchased a large number of N95 masks and I think about 1,500 regular masks. And they donated them all to the university, to our university police department. And in turn, our police department have shared it with other personnel who are working on our campus and other personnel who work at the city and the hospital. Just a real demonstration of grace and generosity. This isn't a pandemic that we're facing just in our county or on our campus or even just in our country. This is a challenge that that humanity is facing. And in this pandemic, we've seen the best of humanity rise time and time again.
we certainly have. We certainly have. Well, I appreciate you being here this morning, sharing with us a little bit about what Ball State has been through and where they're going. Is there anything else you would like to add as we end this up today?
No, again, I'm grateful to you, Mayor, for your leadership. I'm sure this isn't quite what you were anticipating when you were campaigning for this important position last summer. But this is what leadership is about. Anyone can lead when the water is smooth and the skies are blue. So thank you for your leadership. And please know that here at our university, we want to work with you and the city. As I indicated when I came to this community nearly 3 years ago, we recognize the importance of the relationship between the university and the community. And as people have said, this is a time when we show that we truly are better together. So we're partners with you, Mayor, and please let us know how we can help you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we'll be with you guys next week. Have a great weekend and follow the social distancing rules, wash your hands regularly, and we'll all get through this together. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.